The stars looked different today. Admiral Kethfer stood at the massive window of his command ship and watched as hundreds of alien vessels moved into position. Each ship was bigger than a human city. Each ship carried enough weapons to destroy a moon. Together, they formed the largest battle fleet the galaxy had ever seen. Kethfer's scales caught the light from nearby stars. They were black like space itself, but they shimmered when he moved. He had been a warrior for over 200 years. He had fought in 17 major battles. He had never lost a single fight. Today would be no different. The communication screen on his bridge lit up. 12 different alien faces appeared on the display. These were the leaders of the most powerful species in the galaxy. Each one commanded dozens of warships. Each one had agreed to join this mission. Commander Yathala spoke first. Her crystalline body reflected light in rainbow patterns as she moved. Admiral Kethfor, the crystalline collective is ready. Our ships are in position. The plant-like Verdani representative swayed slightly as he spoke. His voice sounded like wind through leaves. The Verdani fleet stands ready as well. We have 300 ships prepared for battle. One by one, each species reported their readiness. The mechanical consortium units spoke in perfect unison. The gas cloud beings of Nebula Prime shifted colors as they communicated. The rock-hard granite people remained perfectly still as their leader spoke. Kethfer nodded to each report. 347 ships total. The most advanced weapons in the galaxy. Shields that could stop entire suns. Engines that could move faster than light itself. All of this power focused on one small blue planet at the edge of this solar system. Earth. The humans living on that world had no idea what was coming. They had just learned to travel between their own planets. Their fastest ships moved slower than the smallest alien cargo vessel. Their weapons were primitive. Their technology was barely worth studying, but the Galactic Council had made its decision. Humans were dangerous. It had taken them less than 10,000 years to go from hitting rocks together to flying through space. Most species needed 1,000,000 years for that kind of progress. Some never managed it at all. Humans learned too fast. They changed too quickly. They were unpredictable. The intelligence reports painted a clear picture. Humans fought constantly among themselves. They destroyed their own environment. They created weapons designed to kill millions of their own kind. They were violent, chaotic, and expanding rapidly into space. If humans were allowed to spread across the galaxy, they would bring their chaos with them. They would upset the careful balance that had kept peace between the alien species for thousands of years. They would start wars. They would consume resources. They would multiply until they covered every world they could reach. The Galactic Council had debated for months. Some species wanted to try diplomacy first. Others argued for economic pressure. A few suggested simply watching and waiting, but the evidence was too strong. Human history was written in blood. Their entertainment focused on conflict. Their heroes were warriors. Even their children played games about fighting and winning. The vote was final. Humanity would be stopped before they could spread beyond their home system. If they surrendered and agreed to stay on their own worlds, they would be allowed to live under careful supervision. If they refused, they would be eliminated completely. Kethfer pulled up the tactical display. The alien Armada surrounded the human solar system like a net. No human ship could escape. No message could get through to warn other species. This would be clean and quick. His communications officer spoke up. Admiral, we are detecting a human vessel approaching our position. Kethfer turned to look at the main screen. A small ship appeared in the display. It was tiny compared to the alien warships around it. It looked fragile, like something a child might build from spare parts. Ship identification? Kethfer asked. The Vessel identifies itself as the USS Liberty. It appears to be an exploration ship. We count 43 life signs aboard. Keffer studied the approaching vessel. It was moving slowly, making no aggressive moves. Its weapons were powered down. Either the humans were incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. Commander Ythala's voice came through the communication system. Admiral, this is perfect. We can demonstrate human weakness before beginning the main assault. Let them see how easily we destroy their ships. The other commanders agreed. The Granite people wanted to crush the human vessel immediately. The Nebula beings suggested using it for target practice. Even the usually cautious Verdani supported making an example of the small ship. Keffer considered the options. The Liberty was completely outgunned. Its shields would not last 5 seconds against even the smallest alien weapon. Its crew would be dead before they could send a distress signal. But something made him pause. The human ship continued approaching despite the overwhelming odds. Its crew had to know they were facing certain death. Yet they kept coming. Open a communication channel to the human vessel, Keffer ordered. The bridge crew exchanged glances. It was unusual to talk to prey before killing it, but none of them questioned their admiral's command. The main screen flickered. A human face appeared. The being looked young by alien standards, with short brown hair and blue eyes. He wore a simple uniform with insignia that marked him as the ship's leader. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earth vessel Liberty," the human said. His voice was calm and steady. "We come in peace and request permission to establish diplomatic contact." Several alien commanders laughed at the human's words. Peace, diplomacy. This from a species that had been fighting wars for its entire recorded history. Keffer studied the human captain's face. There was no fear there, no desperation. Just quiet determination and something else. Something the Admiral could not quite identify. "Captain Morrison," Keffer said, his voice carrying easily across space. "I am Admiral Keffer of the Zephyrian Fleet. You are surrounded by the combined forces of 12 galactic species. Your ship is no match for even our smallest vessel. I offer you one chance to surrender." Morrison listened carefully to the translation. When Keffer finished speaking, the human captain nodded slightly. "I understand your position, Admiral," Morrison replied. "But before we discuss surrender, I have a request. I would like permission to send a brief message to Earth. It will take only a few minutes." The alien commanders began talking at once. Some called it a trick. Others said it was a waste of time. A few suggested destroying the Liberty immediately, but Keffer found himself curious about this strange human. What message could be so important? What could one small ship possibly hope to accomplish against such overwhelming force? "You may send your message, Captain Morrison," Keffer decided, "but make it brief. You have 5 minutes." Morrison smiled slightly. It was not the expression of a defeated enemy. It was something else entirely. "Thank you, Admiral. I promise this will be worth your time." The human captain turned away from the screen to speak with his crew. Keffer watched the small ship floating in space, surrounded by the most powerful fleet ever assembled. Soon the demonstration would begin. The other species would see how easily humans could be defeated. But as Morrison began preparing his message, something unexpected started to happen. The words the human captain spoke were not what anyone in the alien fleet had expected to hear. And in that moment, everything changed. Captain Jake Morrison stood quietly on the bridge of the USS Liberty. Around him, his crew worked at their stations with calm efficiency. No one spoke about the hundreds of alien warships surrounding them. No one mentioned that they were probably going to die in the next few minutes. Lieutenant Commander Lisa Hayes sat at the sensor station. Her fingers moved across the controls as she studied the massive alien fleet. Each ship was at least 10 times larger than the Liberty. Some were 50 times bigger. The combined firepower pointing at them could turn their ship into dust in seconds. "Captain," she said quietly, "I count 347 hostile vessels, 12 different ship designs. Energy readings are off the charts." Morrison nodded. He had expected something like this. Earth's long-range sensors had detected the alien buildup weeks ago. The government had sent the Liberty to investigate. Now they knew the truth. Communications Officer Danny Park looked up from his station. "Sir, I'm receiving transmission requests from multiple alien vessels. They want to talk." "Put the lead ship through," Morrison said. The main screen flickered. The face of Admiral Kethvar appeared before them. The alien looked like something from Earth's ancient legends. His black scales caught the light from the bridge displays. His yellow eyes studied the human crew with obvious curiosity. Morrison had read every file. Earth had on possible alien contact. He knew the protocols. Stay calm. Show respect. Never show fear. Represent humanity at its best. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earth vessel Liberty," he said. "We come in peace and request permission to establish diplomatic contact." The alien admiral tilted his head slightly. When he spoke, his voice was deep and carried easily across space. "Captain Morrison, I am Admiral Kethvar of the Zephyrian Fleet. You are surrounded by the combined forces of 12 galactic species. Your ship is no match for even our smallest vessel. I offer you one chance to surrender." Morrison felt his crew tense around him. Engineer Pete Collins stopped working on his console. Navigator Amy Chun looked up from her charts. Everyone waited to see what their captain would do. Morrison had trained for this moment his entire career. Not this exact situation, but something like it. Earth's military academies taught that sometimes a captain had to make decisions that affected more than just his ship. Sometimes one person had to speak for all of humanity. "I understand your position, Admiral," Morrison replied. "But before we discuss surrender, I have a request. I would like permission to send a brief message to Earth. It will take only a few minutes." Through the communication link, Morrison could hear other alien voices talking in the background. Some sounded angry. Others seemed confused. A few laughed at his request. Admiral Kethvar was quiet for a long moment. Morrison could see the alien leader thinking, weighing options, making calculations. "You may send your message, Captain Morrison," Kethvar finally said, "but make it brief. You have 5 minutes." Morrison smiled, not because he was happy, but because he was proud. Proud of his crew. Proud of his species. Proud to represent Earth in this moment. "Thank you, Admiral. I promise this will be worth your time." Morrison turned to Danny Park. "Open a channel to Earth Command. Full broadcast, all frequencies." "And Danny?" "Yes, sir. Make sure it goes out on open channels. Everyone should hear this." Park's fingers flew across his controls. Within seconds, a green light appeared on his console. "Channel open, Captain. You're broadcasting to Earth and to anyone else who wants to listen." Morrison stepped to the center of the bridge. Around him, his crew continued their work. Behind him, the alien fleet waited. In front of him, the communication screen showed the vast emptiness of space. But Morrison was not looking in space. He was thinking about home, about the blue and green world that had given birth to humanity, about the billions of people living their lives, unaware that their future was being decided right now. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the USS Liberty," he began. "I'm speaking to you from the edge of our solar system. We have made contact with representatives of 12 alien species. They have questions about humanity. They want to know who we are and what we stand for." Morrison paused. Through the communication system, He could hear alien voices discussing his words. Some sounded surprised. Others seemed confused. I could tell them about our weapons, Morrison continued. I could describe our military strength or our technology. I could try to threaten them or bargain with them. But that would not be honest. That would not be who we really are. Lisa Hayes looked up from her sensor station. She could see energy readings changing throughout the alien fleet. Some ships were powering down their weapons. Others were moving to new positions. Something was happening. Instead, I want to tell them about us, Morrison said. About the real us. About the things that make us human. Morrison began to walk slowly around the bridge as he spoke. His crew watched him with growing understanding. They knew what he was doing. He was not just sending a message to Earth. He was introducing humanity to the galaxy. We are a young species, Morrison said. We have only been in space for a few decades. We have made many mistakes. We have fought wars among ourselves. We have damaged our own world. We are not perfect. The alien chatter in the background grew louder. Morrison could hear surprise in their voices. This was not what they had expected from a human facing death. But we have also done remarkable things, Morrison continued. We have created music. That can make people cry with joy. We have written stories that inspire children to dream of better worlds. We have built medicines that save millions of lives. Amy Chun wiped tears from her eyes as she listened to her captain. She thought about her daughter back on Earth, a little girl who loved to paint pictures of spaceships and alien worlds. A child who believed that the universe was good and that people were basically kind. We have learned to love those who are different from us, Morrison said. We have people of every color and culture working together. We have overcome hatred and fear again and again. We choose hope even when hope seems impossible. Pete Collins looked around the bridge at his crewmates. There was Lisa, whose grandparents had fled their home country as refugees. There was Danny, whose family had immigrated to America 3 generations ago. There was Amy, whose ancestors came from 4 different continents, all of them human, all of them different, all of them united in this moment. We explore space not to conquer, but to learn, Morrison said. We reach for the stars, not to take them, but to understand them. We dream of meeting other species, not as enemies, but as friends. Morrison stopped walking and faced the communication screen directly. We know we are small. We know we are weak, compared to the powers that exist in this galaxy. But we are not afraid. We believe that intelligence and wisdom can triumph over fear and hatred. We believe that different species can work together for the benefit of all. The bridge was completely quiet now. Even the background chatter from the alien fleet had stopped. Everyone was listening. If you judge us by our weapons, you will find. U.S.-wanting, Morrison said. If you judge us by our technology, we will seem primitive. But if you judge us by our hearts, by our dreams, by our hope for the future, then perhaps you will see something worth preserving. Morrison took a deep breath. This is Captain Jake Morrison, speaking for all of humanity. We are ready to learn. We are ready to grow. We are ready to take our place among the stars. The transmission ended. The bridge fell silent. Through the communication link with the alien fleet, they could hear dozens of voices talking at once in languages they did not understand. But somehow, Morrison knew that something important had just happened. Something that might change everything. Admiral Kethvar stared at the communication screen in confusion. The human captain had finished his message, but something strange was happening throughout the alien fleet. Ship commanders were calling him on private channels. Others were requesting permission to leave their attack positions. A few had already begun moving away from the battle formation. Admiral, his communications officer reported, we are receiving over 200 transmission requests from fleet commanders. They all want to discuss the human broadcast. Kethver had been expecting threats or pleas for mercy. Instead, the human had talked about music and stories and dreams. It made no sense. These were supposed to be savage warriors, not poets. On the Liberty's bridge, Captain Morrison was not finished. He turned to his crew and nodded. One by one, they began to speak. "Danny, tell them about your grandmother." Morrison said. Communications Officer Park smiled and activated his transmitter. "My grandmother came to Earth from Korea when she was 16 years old. She had no money and could not speak the language. But she never gave up hope. She worked in a factory during the day and studied at night. She learned to read and write in 3 different languages." The alien fleet commanders listened as Park continued. "She raised 4 children by herself when my grandfather died young. She made sure all of them went to school. She told them that education was the one thing no one could ever take away from them. Today, her grandchildren are doctors and teachers and engineers. One of them is talking to you right now from space." Commander Yithala of the Crystalline Collective interrupted the transmission. "Admiral Kethvar, what is this? Why are they telling us these personal stories?" Before Kethvar could answer, Morrison was speaking again. "Lisa, tell them about the music." Lieutenant Commander Hayes activated her station's transmitter. "When I was a child, my parents took me to a concert. There were people from every nation on Earth in that hall. The orchestra played a piece called the Ninth Symphony by a composer named Beethoven. When they reached the final movement, everyone began to sing together." Hayes closed her eyes, remembering. The words were in German, but they translated to something beautiful. They sang about joy and brotherhood, about all people becoming brothers under the stars. In that moment, thousands of strangers became one voice singing about hope and unity. The plant-like Verdani commander swayed as he listened. His species communicated through chemical signals and shared root networks. The idea of separate beings choosing to create harmony together fascinated him. "The composer was deaf when he wrote that music," Hayes continued. "He could not hear the sounds he was creating. But he believed in the power of music to bring people together. He wrote it anyway, trusting that others would understand his vision." On his command ship, Admiral Kethvar found himself thinking about his own youth. The Zephyrian people had their own forms of art, but they were ancient and unchanging. The idea of creating something new, something that had never existed before, was foreign to his culture. Morrison called on Engineer Collins next. "Pete, tell them about the children." Collins stepped forward. "I have a daughter named Katie. She is 7 years old. Last week, she brought home a picture she drew at school. It showed people from Earth meeting people from other worlds. In her picture, they were all holding hands and smiling." Collins' voice grew softer. "I asked her why she drew the aliens as friends instead of enemies. She looked at me like I had asked the stupidest question in the universe. She said, 'Why would they be enemies, Daddy? Different does not mean bad.'" Several alien commanders began talking at once. The Mechanoid Consortium units were particularly interested. Their artificial intelligence networks had calculated thousands of scenarios for human first contact. None of their projections had included a child's drawing. "That night, Katie asked me to read her a story," Collins continued. "It was about a little girl who was different from everyone else in her town. The other children were afraid of her because she looked strange. But one boy chose to be her friend anyway. He learned that being different made her special, not scary. The Granite People's commander, whose species was known for their rigid thinking, found himself considering new possibilities. Could difference be strength instead of weakness? Navigator Chun spoke next. "My daughter Emma is 3 years old. She does not understand war or hatred or fear. When she sees someone who looks different from her, she smiles and tries to share her toys. She believes that everyone wants to be friends." Chun looked directly at the communication screen. "Emma has never met an alien but I know what she would do if she saw you. She would offer you her favorite stuffed animal and ask if you wanted to play. That is how humans begin. We start with trust and friendship. We learn fear and hatred later. The transmission continued with stories from other crew members. Each story was simple and personal. Each one revealed something about human nature that the alien intelligence reports had missed. Medical officer Karen Lopez told them about doctors who traveled to dangerous places to help strangers. They risk their lives to save people they have never met. They do this not for money or glory, but because they believe all life has value. Security Chief Robert Barnes spoke about teachers who spent their own money to buy supplies for poor children. They work long hours for little pay because they believe in the future. They see potential in every child, even the ones others have given up on. Throughout the alien fleet, commanders were discovering that their assumptions about humanity were wrong. These were not the savage conquerors described in the intelligence reports. These were people who created beauty, who cared for the weak, who chose hope over fear. On the Crystalline Collective flagship, Commander Yuthala was reviewing the intelligence files again. She found reports of human wars and violence. But she also found information that had been ignored. Humans who died protecting strangers. Humans who sacrificed their lives to save their enemies. Humans who built hospitals and schools instead of weapons. The artificial beings of the Mechanoid Consortium were running new calculations. Their original data about human aggression was accurate, but incomplete. They had focused on conflict and missed cooperation. They had studied war and ignored love. Captain Morrison took control of the transmission again. We know you came here to judge us. We know you have seen our wars and our mistakes. We do not deny them. We are not perfect beings. Morrison walked to the front of the bridge. Behind him, his crew continued their work. Around him, the alien fleet waited in space. But we are learning, Morrison said. Every generation of humans is better than the last. We make fewer mistakes. We show more kindness. We choose peace more often than war. Morrison paused, looking out at the stars. We know we are young compared to your species. We know we have much to learn. But we hope you will give us the chance to prove that we can be worthy neighbors in this galaxy. The captain's voice grew stronger. We do not ask you to trust us because we are perfect. We ask you to trust us because we are trying to become better. We ask you to judge us not just by who we have been, but by who we are becoming. Admiral Kethfer realized that his fleet was no longer in attack formation. Ships had moved out of position as their commanders listened to the human stories. Some vessels had powered down their weapons entirely. Others had begun broadcasting the human transmission to their home worlds. For the first time in his military career, Admiral Kethfer was unsure what to do next. The enemy he had come to destroy was not the enemy he had expected to find. The humans were still waiting for his response. But now, everything had changed. Admiral Kethfer watched his fleet fall apart before his eyes. What had started as the most organized military force in galactic history was becoming something else entirely. Ship commanders were abandoning their positions. Some were requesting permission to leave. Others were openly refusing orders. Admiral, his tactical officer reported, the Crystalline Collective is pulling back from the battle line. Commander Yuthala refuses to target the human vessel. Kethfer activated his communication system. Commander Yuthala, explain your actions immediately. The crystalline being's image appeared on his screen. Her body was shifting colors rapidly, a sign of deep emotional conflict among her people. Admiral, I cannot fire on these beings, she said. They are artists. They are creators. To destroy them would be like crushing a flower before it blooms. They are also warriors, Kethver replied firmly. Our intelligence reports clearly show their capacity for violence. Yes, they fight, Yuthala agreed. But they also compose music that moves the soul. They write stories that inspire hope. They create beauty from nothing. Admiral, when was the last time our people created something truly new? Before Cathvar could answer, another commander interrupted the conversation. The Verdani representative's voice rustled like leaves in a gentle wind. The Verdani delegation is also withdrawing from combat readiness, he announced. We have studied the human cultural transmission. These beings show the same growth patterns as our own species. They are young and wild, yes, but they are learning. To be better. This is madness, Kethver growled. We have our orders from the Galactic Council. Orders based on incomplete information, came a new voice. Unit Prime 7 of the Mechanoid Consortium appeared on the communication screen. The artificial being's metal face showed no expression, but its words carried surprising weight. Our analysis was flawed, Prime 7 continued. We focused on human conflict and ignored human cooperation. We studied their capacity for destruction, but failed to measure their capacity for creation. This was a significant error in our logical processes. Kethver felt his command structure crumbling. Unit Prime 7, your people are known for perfect logic. Surely you can see the threat these humans represent. We see a different kind of threat, Prime 7 replied. Not a threat to our existence, but a threat to our assumptions. Humans think in ways we do not. They combine logic with emotion, individual desires with group needs. They are chaotic, yes, but their chaos creates possibilities we never considered. More commanders began speaking up. The gas cloud beings of Nebula Prime reported that human creativity reminded them of their own ancient art forms. The rock-hard granite people admitted that human adaptability impressed them. Even the warlike Talon Empire was having second thoughts. Admiral, came the voice of Commander Vextar of the Talon Empire, my people respect strength above all else. We came here expecting to find weak prey. Instead, we find beings who face certain death with courage and dignity. This is not weakness. This is the strongest thing we have ever witnessed. Captain Morrison's voice cut through the alien discussions. Admiral Kethver, may I speak? Kethver looked at the small human ship floating in the middle of his dissolving fleet. You may speak, Captain Morrison. I can hear your commanders talking, Morrison said. I understand that you are facing a difficult decision. You came here with orders to destroy us. But now you are learning that we might not be what you expected. Morrison paused, choosing his words carefully. I want to tell you something that might help you decide. We know you are here. We know you have the power to destroy us. But we are not afraid. You should be afraid, Kethva replied. Even with some of my fleet withdrawing, I still have enough firepower to reduce your entire solar system to dust. Yes, Morrison agreed. You do. But fear would not help us right now. Fear would make us desperate. Desperate people make poor decisions. We choose to face the situation with hope instead of fear. Lieutenant Commander Hayes spoke up from her station. Admiral, may I share something with you? Kethvar found himself nodding. These humans had already surprised him so many times. What was one more? My great-grandfather fought in a war on Earth. Many years ago, Hayes said. He was captured by the enemy and spent 3 years in a prison camp. The conditions were terrible. Many prisoners died, but my great-grandfather survived. Hayes looked directly at the communication screen. After the war, a reporter asked him how he managed to survive when so many others died. He said something I will never forget. He said, I survived because I chose to believe that tomorrow would be better than today. Hope kept me alive when nothing else could. That is the human way, Morrison added. We choose hope over fear. We choose trust over suspicion. We choose to believe that different species can work together instead of fighting each other. Navigator Chun stepped forward. Admiral, My daughter asked me a question before I left on this mission. She wanted to know if the aliens we might meet would be our friends or our enemies. I told her that would be up to us. I told her that we would offer friendship first and see what happened. The Bridge of the Liberty fell quiet. Around them, the alien fleet continued its discussions. Some ships were moving away from the battle formation. Others were holding position, but with weapons powered down. A few hardline commanders were demanding immediate attack. "Admiral," Morrison said, "I know this is difficult for you. You have orders from your superiors. You have responsibilities to your people. But I want you to know something. Whatever you decide, we understand. We will not hate you for following your orders." Kethver was stunned by the human's words. In all his years of military service, no enemy had ever spoken to him with such respect and understanding. "However," Morrison continued, "I also want you to know that you have a choice. You can follow your original orders and destroy us. Or you can choose to be part of something new. Something that has never happened before in galactic history." "And what would that be?" Kethver asked. "Peace," Morrison said simply. "Not the peace of conquest or surrender. Not the peace of the strong ruling the weak. But the peace of equals, choosing to work together. The peace of different species sharing knowledge and dreams and hopes for the future." Morrison walked to the center of his bridge. "You have seen our wars, Admiral. But you have also seen our art. You have seen our capacity for violence. But you have also seen our capacity for love. You know we are dangerous, but you also know we are trying to be better." The captain's voice grew stronger. "Give us a chance to prove that we can be worthy partners in this galaxy. Give us a chance to show you what humans can accomplish when we work with others instead of against them." Throughout the alien fleet, commanders were making their own decisions. The Crystalline Collective formally withdrew from the battle formation. The Verdani ships began broadcasting messages of peace to their home worlds. The Mechanoid Consortium requested permission to establish a research station to study human creativity, but not everyone was convinced. Commander Grixenak of the Destroyer Cast spoke with barely controlled fury. "This is weakness. These humans are manipulating us with pretty words and sad stories. They are trying to make us forget our duty." Several other hardline commanders agreed. The Flame Riders demanded immediate attack. The Dark Star Coalition refused to withdraw from battle positions. The Iron Fist Legion powered up their weapons and prepared to fire. Admiral Kethver found himself at the center of a crisis that could determine the future of galactic civilization. Half his fleet wanted to protect the humans. Half wanted to destroy them. The decision fell to him. The young human captain waited patiently for his answer. The fate of two species hung in the balance. Kethver had never faced a choice like this before. But as he looked at the small human ship surrounded by his massive fleet, he realized that perhaps this was not really about military strategy or following orders. Perhaps this was about what kind of galaxy they wanted to live in. Admiral Kethver stood alone on his command bridge. Around him, his officers waited for orders. Throughout the fleet, hundreds of alien commanders waited for his decision. On the small human ship, Captain Morrison and his crew prepared for whatever would come next. The Admiral looked at the tactical display. His fleet was split in half. 170 ships still held attack positions, their weapons charged and ready. 177 ships had withdrawn from the battle line, refusing to fire on the humans. The largest military force in galactic history had become two opposing groups. "Admiral," his weapons officer reported, "the hardline commanders are requesting permission to open fire. They say they will act with or without your orders." Kethver knew this moment would define his entire career. More than that, it would shape the future of galactic civilization. He could follow his original orders and destroy the humans, It would be quick and clean. The Galactic Council would praise him for completing his mission. Or he could choose something else. Something that had never been tried before. Open a channel to the human vessel. Kethver ordered. Captain Morrison's face appeared on the communication screen. The human looked tired but calm. His crew continued working at their stations behind him, showing no signs of panic or fear. Captain Morrison, Kethver said, I have a proposal. Would you be willing to meet with me face to face? Morrison's eyebrows raised in surprise. You want to come aboard the Liberty? I want us to meet somewhere neutral, Kethver replied. Somewhere both our species can feel safe. Your ship is too small for proper diplomatic meetings. My ship would make your people nervous. Perhaps we can find another solution. Morrison looked at his crew. They nodded their agreement. What do you have in mind, Admiral? There is an asteroid between our positions, Kethver said. My engineers could set up a temporary station there. We could meet in person and discuss the situation properly. Commander Grixenak's angry voice cut through the communication. Admiral, this is madness. We did not come here to negotiate with prey animals. We came here to eliminate a threat. The threat has changed, Kethver replied firmly. These humans are not what we expected. We need to reconsider our options. The Galactic Council gave us clear orders, another hardline commander added. We are to contain or destroy the human species. There is no room for interpretation. Kethver looked at the dozens of alien faces on his communication screens. Some showed support for his plan. Others showed anger and frustration. A few showed fear about what would happen if they disobeyed direct orders. The Galactic Council made their decision based on incomplete information, Kethver said. We have learned new facts about humanity. It is our duty to report these findings before taking irreversible action. Unit Prime 7 of the Mechanoid Consortium supported the Admiral's position. Logic dictates that new information requires new analysis. To proceed with the original plan would be inefficient. Commander Yavala agreed. The Crystalline Collective supports face-to-face negotiations. We believe direct contact will provide better understanding. But the hardline commanders were not convinced. This is a waste of time, Commander Grixenak snarled. Every moment we delay gives the humans a chance to prepare defenses or call for help. Captain Morrison spoke up from his ship. Admiral, I accept your proposal. But I should tell you that we are not calling for help or preparing weapons. Our entire defense fleet could not challenge even one of your ships. We know that. We are not trying to trick you or buy time. We simply want to talk. Morrison paused. However, I should also tell you that we have been broadcasting everything that has happened here back to Earth. Our people know about this encounter. They know that some of your commanders want peace while others want war. If you destroy us, now, humanity will remember both groups. The human captain's words created silence throughout the alien fleet. The implications were clear. If they attacked now, humans would see them as conquerors and enemies. If they chose peace, humans would remember them as friends. Admiral Kethver made his decision. All ships, this is Admiral Kethver. I am ordering a temporary ceasefire. Engineering teams will construct a neutral meeting station on asteroid Delta 7. Any commander who wishes to participate in negotiations is welcome. Any commander who refuses will be noted in my official report to the Galactic Council. The response was immediate. More than half the fleet signaled their agreement. The Crystalline Collective offered to provide construction materials. The Verdani volunteered to create atmosphere and life support systems. The Mechanoid Consortium began calculating optimal station designs, but the hardline faction was furious. Commander Grixenak announced that his ships would not recognize any agreements made with humans. The Flame Riders declared Kethver a traitor to galactic security. Several smaller factions began moving their ships away from the main fleet. "Let them go," Kethver said quietly. "History will judge who made the right choice today." Within 6 hours, a remarkable thing happened. Alien engineering teams worked together to build a small space station on the asteroid. The construction took place in full view of both fleets. Human and alien crews watched each other work, learning about different technologies and methods. Captain Morrison arrived at the station in a small shuttle. He brought with him Lieutenant Commander Hayes and Communications Officer Park. Admiral Kethvar came with his senior staff and representatives from the Avham, cooperative alien species. The meeting room was simple but functional. Chairs designed for different body types surrounded a round table. Translation devices allowed everyone to understand each other perfectly. Large windows showed the stars, and both fleets waiting in space. Morrison looked around the room at the gathered aliens. Crystalline beings who reflected light like living jewels. Plant creatures who swayed gently as they moved. Artificial intelligences in mechanical bodies. Gas cloud beings contained in special environment suits. Rocky creatures who looked like walking mountains. "This is incredible," Morrison said. 6 months ago, humanity did not know that any of you existed. Now we are sitting together, talking about the future. Admiral Kethver studied the human captain carefully. "Captain Morrison, you impressed many of my commanders today, but I must ask you directly. Are humans truly peaceful? Your history suggests otherwise." Morrison considered the question seriously. "No, Admiral, we are not truly peaceful. We fight among ourselves. We make mistakes. We sometimes choose violence when we should choose words. We are not perfect beings." The honesty surprised several alien representatives. They had expected the human to lie or make excuses. But Morrison continued, "We are learning. Each generation of humans is less violent than the last. We solve more problems with discussion than with weapons. We choose cooperation more often than conflict." Morrison stood and walked to the window. "Look at this station, Admiral. Your people built it in ours. Working together, your species can accomplish amazing things. Imagine what we could accomplish if humans joined that cooperation." Commander Yathala spoke up. "What would humans contribute to galactic civilization? What unique gifts do you bring?" "Perspective," Morrison replied. "We see problems differently than you do. We combine logic with emotion, individual thinking with group cooperation. We create new solutions because we approach old problems in new ways. Unit Prime 7 process this information. You offer cognitive diversity. This could be valuable for solving complex galactic challenges." The negotiations continued for hours. Trust built slowly as humans and aliens shared ideas and concerns. They discussed human expansion into space, alien fears about rapid human development, and possibilities for peaceful cooperation. Finally, Admiral Kethvar made an announcement. That would change galactic history. "I propose the establishment of a joint research and cultural exchange station at the edge of the Sol system. Human and alien scientists, artists, and philosophers would work together. We would learn from each other and explore questions that neither group could answer alone." Morrison smiled. The United Earth government would be honored to participate in such a project. As the meeting ended, both fleets began to disperse. The hardline aliens departed to report the failure of their mission. But the majority remained to help establish the new station. 6 months later, children from Earth visited the station for the first time. They played games with young aliens, learning to see the universe through different eyes. Their parents worked alongside alien researchers, solving problems that had puzzled galactic civilization for centuries. Captain Morrison, now Earth's first interstellar ambassador, stood in the station's observation deck with Admiral Kethvar. Together, they watched human and alien children laughing and playing in the zero-gravity recreation area. "Do you ever regret your decision, Admiral?" Morrison asked. Cuthbert watched a human child show an alien youngling how to do somersaults. In zero gravity, both children were giggling with pure joy. "Captain Morrison," the Admiral replied, "this is the best military victory I have ever achieved. We came here to prevent a war. Instead, we found something much more valuable. We found friends." The Armada had indeed been ready for war. But what they found was something far more powerful than any weapon.